Serving in high office is an honour and privilege. It is also a heavy responsibility. That is true at any time, but especially when the stakes are so high. And negotiating the UK's withdrawal from the EU after 40 years and building from the ground up a new and enduring relationship for the good of our children and grandchildren is a matter of the highest consequence. It touches almost every area of our national life, our whole economy and virtually every job, the livelihoods of our fellow citizens, our integrity as a United Kingdom of 4 nations, our safety and security. All of these are at stake. My approach throughout has been to put the national interest first, not a partisan interest, and certainly not my own political interest. I do not judge harshly those of my colleagues who seek to do the same, but who reach a different conclusion. They must do what they believe to be right, just as I do. I'm sorry that they've chosen to leave the government, and I thank them for their service. But I believe with every fibre of my being that the course I have set out is the right one for our country and all our people. From the very beginning, I have known what I wanted to deliver for the British people, to honour their vote in the referendum. Full control of our borders by bringing an end to the free movement of people, once and for all. Full control of our money, so we decide ourselves how to spend it on priorities like our NHS. Full control of our laws by ending the jurisdiction of the European Court of Justice in the United Kingdom, getting us out of the common agricultural policy and common fisheries policy for good. That is exactly what this agreement will deliver. Free movement ended. Vast annual payments stopped. The jurisdiction of the ECJ over. Out of the CAP, out of the CFP. This is a Brexit that delivers on the priorities of the British people. In achieving these objectives, I'm also determined to protect the things that are important to us. Protect the hundreds of thousands of manufacturing jobs that put food on the tables of working families right across the UK. Those jobs rely on cross-border trade in goods, with parts flowing easily in and out of the UK, allowing for integrated supply chains. This agreement protects that. Protect the close security cooperation that helps keep us safe. This agreement does that. Protect the integrity of the United Kingdom and the peaceful settlement in Northern Ireland by leaving the EU as one United Kingdom and having no hard border between Northern Ireland and Ireland. This agreement does that as well. Yes, difficult and sometimes uncomfortable decisions have had to be made. I understand fully that there are some who are unhappy with those compromises, but this deal delivers what people voted for, and it is in the national interest. And we can only secure it if we unite behind the agreement reached in Cabinet yesterday. If we do not move forward with that agreement, nobody can know for sure the consequences that will follow. It would be to take a path of deep and grave uncertainty when the British people just want us to get on with it. They are looking to the Conservative Party to deliver a Brexit that works for the whole UK, a strong economy that keeps jobs safe and wages rising, and first-class public services we can rely on, an NHS there for all of us, great schools for every child, and the homes that families need. That is what the people we serve expect, and that is what we owe it to them to deliver. Goodness me, you normally put your hand straight up after the... Laura.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister. Laura Kunsberg, BBC News. It's very clear you want to stick to your plan. Isn't it the case, though, that others are seeking to take that decision out of your hands? And, Prime Minister, is it not the case now that you are in office, but you're not really in power?
No, when we bring the deal back, what is going to happen now is that there will be negotiations, particularly focusing on the future framework and filling their details of that out, and an EU Council meeting, and that will then be brought back to the House of Commons and to a vote in the House of Commons. I'm going to do my job of getting the best deal for Britain. I'm going to do my job of getting a deal that is in the national interest. When the vote comes before the House of Commons, MPs will be doing their job. They will need to look at that a deal. They will need to consider the vote of the British people to leave the European Union and our duty to deliver on that vote. And of course, they will be held to account by their constituents for the decisions that they take. Tom.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Tom Newton-Dunn for The Sun. Prime Minister, if there was a confidence vote held in your leadership of the Conservative Party, do you think it's in the national interest for you to fight it? And if you win by only one vote, will you carry on as Prime Minister?
Leadership is about taking the right decisions, not the easy ones. As Prime Minister, my job is to bring back a deal that delivers on the vote of the British people, that does that by ending free movement, all the things I raised in my statement, ending free movement, ensuring we're not sending vast annual sums to the EU any longer, ending the jurisdiction of the European Court of Justice, but also protects jobs and protects people's livelihoods, protects our security, protects the Union of the United Kingdom. I believe that this is a deal which does deliver that, which is in the national interest. And am I going to see this through? Yes. Next question. Yes? Yes. Sorry. Do you want a microphone?
Prime Minister Simon Viger from 5 News. Surely now even you have to admit this is not strong and stable.
What I think people will see is that what I and the government have done is been sticking to the job of ensuring that we're delivering for the British people. That's what we're doing. We're delivering in the national interest. And look, you know, MPs have been debating the best way to deliver Brexit ever since the referendum took place in 2016. And there's been much criticism throughout that time of the government's approach. People have been ready to point out what they don't like. But one simple fact remains, and that is that nobody has produced any alternative proposal which both delivers on the referendum and also ensures that there's no hard border between Northern Ireland and Ireland. And I understand some people feel uncomfortable about the details in the backstop, particularly in the withdrawal agreement, and I share some of those concerns. But there's another inescapable fact. There is no deal which can be agreed with the European Union that does not involve a backstop to act as an insurance policy against a return to the borders of the past in Northern Ireland. All the other approaches, Norway, Canada Plus, etc., they would all require a backstop. And the alternative of repudiating that backstop would not only mean reneging on a promise to the people of Northern Ireland, but it would also collapse the negotiation and end hopes of securing a deal. So what has the government been doing? We have been absolutely clear in focusing on delivering what is in the best interests of the British people. Faisal.
Faisal Islam, Sky News. Prime Minister, are you not in denial about the chances of getting this deal through Parliament? And for the critics in your own party that have been sending in letters very publicly, is it time for them to put up or shut up?
What I have, as I think you may have heard me say in the House of Commons earlier today, as I've just reiterated here, I'm going to do my job of bringing back the best deal for the United Kingdom. That will then be put before the House of Commons. It will be put before members of Parliament in a meaningful vote. Their job will be to look at that deal. Their job will be to consider the interests of their constituents, and their job will be to consider how we can deliver on the vote of the British people to leave the European Union. And I think most people watching this or listening to this will recognise that this is not an easy thing to do. This is a complex negotiation. But I think what most people want to know is that what we will deliver will be in their interests. It will protect jobs, it will protect security, it will ensure a great future for this country. Yes.
Rob Hutton from Bloomberg. Isn't it time to say what you clearly think, which is that the Brexit campaign offered something that was not on the menu? It offered very, very easy trade negotiations. It offered there was going to be no problem at all with the Irish border. It was all going to be fantastically straightforward. The European Union was going to give us everything we wanted because of BMW and Prosecco and things like that. Isn't it time to say that I'm afraid some of the things that you were promised, they were never there?
No, look, I think most people in this country recognise that after 40 years of membership of the European Union, delivering Brexit, dealing with how we're going to withdraw from the EU and what our future relationship is not an easy negotiation. These are complex issues. I think what most members of the public want, those actually who voted for leave and those many of those who voted for remain as well, is for the government to get on with it. That's exactly what we're doing. And for the government to deliver a deal that is in the national interest, that is going to protect their jobs, and that is going to ensure that we have a great future for this country, and that's exactly what we're doing. Yes, over.
Julia McFarlane, ABC News. Prime Minister, what would you say to Britain's friends and allies abroad who are watching all this happening and witnessing what's increasingly looking like a government in chaos?
I think what people in Brussels will be seeing is that the government has agreed the withdrawal agreement. They've recognised, and the draft outline political declaration. They have recognised that by the fact that President Juncker has written to the EU Council, to President Tusk, to say that decisive progress has been made in the negotiations, and on that basis, a council has been called for the 25th of November. And I think they see a government that is intent on working with them to ensure that we deliver a good deal for the British people. But as I've always said, I think a good deal for the UK is a good deal for the EU as well. Robert.
Prime Minister, you've said that your deal is in the national interest, but your party is deeply divided on it, perhaps more divided than any of us have ever seen. Are you prepared to risk the breakup of your party to deliver the deal you believe in?
As I've just said, Robert, in answer to an earlier question, MPs have been debating how best to deliver on the result of the referendum ever since the result of the referendum took place. I think what the British people want us to do, and I believe what MPs will do when it comes to the vote in the House of Commons, is focus on the fact that people have voted to leave and focus on how we do that in a way that is good for the United Kingdom. I'm committed as Prime Minister to bringing the best deal back for the United Kingdom. That's what I'm going to be doing, and I expect when we come that members of Parliament across my party will look at that deal, will recognise the importance of delivering on the vote of the British people, and recognise the importance of doing that in a way that does protect people's jobs, that does protect our security, and does protect our United Kingdom. George?
Gordon Rayner from The Telegraph.
Oh, sorry.
It's all right. Prime Minister...
I got the G right.
Yeah. There are reports tonight that Michael Gove has been asked to become the new Brexit Secretary, but that he will only take that job on condition that he is allowed to go back to Brussels and try for more concessions. Will you allow whoever becomes the new Brexit Secretary to do that, to try and get more concessions? And there have been no announcements yet on any appointments to replace people who've resigned. Are you struggling to find people who want to fill those roles?
Now, I've had actually rather a busy day, as you might have seen, 3 hours in the House of Commons. Seriously, look, Michael has been doing an excellent job at DEFRA, and particularly in his defence of the fishing industry. And as you'll see, there's some very important elements of the outline political declaration which recognise that the United Kingdom will be an independent coastal state in the future. Fishing is an issue that matters to people, and Michael's been doing an excellent job in terms of ensuring that we're delivering on that commitment that we have to come out of the common fisheries policy. I haven't appointed a new DEXU secretary yet, and I will, of course, be making appointments to the government in due course. Jason?
Thank you. Jason Gross from the Daily Mail. Just to follow up Tom's question, we've seen several of your colleagues today declare that they no longer have confidence in your leadership. What will you do if there's a vote of no confidence in the coming days?
Well, as I said earlier, look, leadership is about making the right decisions, not taking the easy decisions. As Prime Minister, my job is to get the best deal for Britain and to bring that deal back to the House of Commons, and that's exactly what I am focused on doing. I think members of the public want the government to get on with delivering on Brexit for them. And as I said earlier, am I going to see this through? Yes. Who shall we have here in front?
Prime Minister, thank you very much. Nick Robertson from CNN. You've talked about leadership as being the position of taking hard decisions, the right decisions, that some of the choices have not been easy. Would you share with the country now some of those decisions that you personally have found have been the hard, tough, not easy decisions to take?
Well, in relation to the deal that we're looking at, there's, as I've said before, I recognise there are concerns about the backstop. That is an issue, and I share many of those concerns. And the decision to go forward and on the basis that we have was not an easy one. There was a very good and impassioned debate that took place in the Cabinet yesterday over these issues. But overall, looking at the national interest, we agreed as a Cabinet and as a government that the deal that we have is the right one to proceed with, to go to the next stage of the negotiations, and obviously those negotiations will lead up to the EU Council on the 25th of November. Mesa?
Thank you, Prime Minister. Mesa Hall from the Daily Express. Ever since you've been in this job, you've always been adamant that the country will leave the EU in March next year. Over the last couple of days, you've talked about the risk of no Brexit. Do you think, given the forces that are lined up in opposition to your deal, that is now becoming a definite threat?
Well, there were a number of members of Parliament who stood up in the House of Commons today and said that their view was that staying within the European Union was the right thing to do. I disagree. We gave the vote to the British people. Parliament overwhelmingly gave that vote to the British people to decide whether or not to stay in the European Union. The people voted to leave, and I believe it is our duty as a government, I believe it's our duty as members of Parliament to deliver on that vote of the British people. And we will be leaving on the 29th of March 2019. On the edge there, sorry, yes.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Matthew Thompson from LBC. I'm just wondering to what extent this crisis is to some extent of your own making, in the sense that it's a failure of expectation management and not bringing people like the DUP and hardliners within your own party along with you. Obviously, they weren't going to like what was in this deal. Should you not have brought them on board a little bit more quickly?
We have been working on this deal and negotiating on this deal. There have been various staging posts where we've made clear to people what the approach that we're taking in relation to these issues. That happened in December at the joint report, obviously. Then there was further information that we put forward in the spring, and then in July our approach was clearly set out for people. We have, of course, been discussing with colleagues and with people in the House of Commons, as we have been discussing with business and others as we progress through in putting this deal together. What has been the focus, as I said earlier, is making sure that the deal that we deliver is a deal that delivers on the vote of the British people, that does so in a way which is in the best national interest, which ensures that we protect people's jobs and livelihood and security, but also ensures that we are able to move forward outside the European Union as a global Britain, and, for example, to ensure that we can negotiate trade deals around the rest of the world. I believe that's what's in the interests of people here in this country, and that's what we will deliver. I'll take a couple more questions. Now, George.
Sorry. Paul War, HuffPost.
Oh, have I done it again?
Lots of reporters...
Anybody who thinks I've got George Parker on my mind is, you know...
It's lots of reporters with no hair, Prime Minister. I think that's it. Prime Minister, if the House of Commons voted by a majority for another referendum, for a people's vote, would you see that as a resignation matter, or would you see that as you having to implement the will of Parliament as Prime Minister?
Well, look, I have taken a very clear view about the question of a second referendum. I've made that view clear to members of Parliament. And I think actually across the House of Commons, most members of Parliament recognise that they gave a vote to the British people, and the British people voted, and it's up to us to deliver on that vote and not have a second referendum. As far as I'm concerned, there will not be a second referendum. We asked people their view. They said we should leave the European Union, and we will leave the European Union, and we will leave on the 29th of March 2019. Look, if you look across the House of Commons, yes, there have been some voices for a second referendum. But I believe, actually, when people come to look at the deal that we bring back from the European Council, the final package that we bring back from the European Council, They will look at delivering on the vote of the British people and at doing so in a way that protects the interests of their constituents. And I believe that is the question that members of Parliament will be asking themselves at that point, not about a second referendum. I'll take, as I said, just a couple more. Just in there.
Hi, I'm Hannah Al-Othman from BuzzFeed News. My question is, given the difficulty you're likely to have getting this deal through Parliament, do you regret calling a general election last year?
No, I don't regret calling a general election last year. As I say, when it comes to the vote in Parliament, there will be a decision for MPs to take. I'm going to do my job. I'm going to bring the best deal back for the British people, and MPs will then do their job and, of course, be held to account by their constituents for it. So the last question I'll take here.
Thank you. Joe Waltz, The Independent. Prime Minister, you're a cricket fan. From the outside, it looks like, at the moment, you're a long, long way off getting the number of runs that you need, but your batsmen are dropping like flies. Is there any number of wickets that will fall in your cabinet before you resign as captain?
Well, can I just say that you might recall from previous comments I've made about cricket that one of my cricket heroes was always Geoffrey Boycott. And what did you know about Geoffrey Boycott? Geoffrey Boycott stuck to it, and he got the runs in the end. Thank you.